up guys, Matt here coming to you from Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson. So today Mickey and I are going to be taking out the brand new 2025 model year Pan America ST. So the fourth variation of the Pan America is now out. We've seen the standard, the special, the CVO, and now we've got the ST. The ST is more of a on-road only oriented bike with a couple specific road performance features: smaller front wheel, quick shifter, shed a bunch of weight. So Mickey and I are going to take the bike out. We're going to give you our thoughts on this brand new Pan America ST, and let me know what you guys think.
I'm really glad I got to ride this bike because I fell into a little bit of a trap. I am such a fan of the Pan America Special. Not too long ago, we took a Pan America Specials. We went out to the Burr Trail and I had an absolute blast packing it up, taking tents, going camping, doing a little bit of off-roading stuff. And so I kind of had a bar set in my mind for what I want this bike to do and how I feel it fulfills those standards that I would like in an adventure touring bike. And so when this bike came out, I'm looking at it on paper, and even when we got one in the showroom, I'm looking at it, and the first thing I did was I compared it to the Special and all the things I like about the Special that I see are missing from this bike. And now that I've ridden it, that's why I say I'm glad I rode it, because it kind of feels like a much different bike than what I expected it to be. So while it shares the furniture of the Pan America and it shares the name, I almost feel like this bike doesn't belong in the adventure touring class. The adventure touring class, the Pan American Trail, is an off-road thing, right? And this bike is not that. But it shares the same furniture, it has the same profile as the Pan America, and I like that about it because I like the ergonomics about it. Ergonomically, this bike is an absolute joy to ride. And I think a lot of people that I would bring the Pan America up to, the two things that they would say is, I'm not going off-road, and the bike's too tall for me. So I feel like this model has kind of negated those two things. If you have no interest in going off-road, then the Pan America Special starts to feel like, well, maybe I'm buying a feature that I'm never going to use. And if the bike is too tall for you, then this is kind of the answer with the adaptive ride height built into MSRP and having a shorter seat height from the get-go.
We first saw the Pan America Standard and Pan America Special launch in the 2021 model year. That's when we first saw Harley-Davidson's Revolution Max, or Rev Max motor for short, be introduced. And this was a big deal at the time. It still is a big deal. This was a completely brand new design in the 21 model year. I'm gonna link a video in the upper right-hand corner here for you guys to check out. I talk about all the detailed specs on the Revolution Max 1250. I feel like now that we're 4 years later, some people have forgotten just all the details on this motor. It really is an engineering work of art that Harley-Davidson has created. But basically, you've got a 1250cc engine, fully liquid cooled, dual overhead cam, variable valve timing. And so this thing really is a beast in terms of performance. It has a red line at 9,000 RPM. And so this is a great engine that's suited for this type of a sport touring version of the Pan America. Pan America Special was already just kind of this beast, but this is more of an on-road only version of the Pan America. Some quick specs for you. So this 1250 Rev Max still puts out about 150 horsepower, and it's got 94 foot-pounds of torque on it. Like I said, red line's about 9,000 RPM. I've found as I've owned the Pan America Special now, since it was first introduced in the 21 model year, that cruising speed, engine speed, is right around 5,000 RPM. But once you start to hit that 6, 7, 8,000 RPM, this thing just, you can feel that variable valve timing kick in, and this thing just turns into an animal. So very, very fast bike. One of the things that they did for the ST, they went to a smaller front wheel. On the Pan America Special, you have a 19, so this is a 17, so you made it a little bit more nimble and agile. So that's one of the things that I noticed right away, just dipping in turns, dipping in and out of turns. This thing just dipped in a lot quicker and easier than the 19. I'll be honest though, the Pan America Special, the handling has always been one of the strong suits, but just made it even stronger on this. I'd like to take this up on a really windy canyon road like the Highway 2 or something like that, but we didn't get that opportunity today, but we did get to do, you know, some quick turns and things like that around town here in Baldwin Park. One of the things, and I've said this before in past videos, I really think this was a good move from Harley-Davidson, because I think the mentality of customers coming in and looking at the Pan America Special is, hey, this is an off-road bike. If I'm not going to take it off-road, it's not for me. I'm not going to give it a second look. And everybody that isn't an off-road person, doesn't know how to ride off-road, just dismiss that bike, when really the Pan America Special is an awesome bike to stay on road and go all over the country, all over the world, really. I mean, this is an adventure touring bike. But on this, they further just solidified this bike in that niche of on-road only, and just kind of went all in on that sportiness and the performance aspect of this bike. I would really compare this to like an upright naked bike. Upright nakeds are really popular in the sport bike world for a couple reasons. Sport bikes have been popular in the past, but you can't really ride them because they're so uncomfortable. Sport bikes are great on the track and things like that, but an upright naked bike, now you've got the good ergonomics, but you have the performance of a sport bike. Harley-Davidson has kind of done that with this bike here, where you have really good ergonomics. The suspension is fantastic. In fact, if you're a bigger guy that doesn't fit on one of those upright naked Japanese bikes like myself, then this is a great bike for a full-size adult male to get on and enjoy really good engine performance, braking performance. You've got Brembo brakes, dual disc in the front. You've got about 7 inches of travel in the front and rear suspension. That's one of the things they did with this bike as well, is they lowered this bike by 3/4 of an inch. So you have a lower seat height as well. One of the value adds that they did on the Pan America ST was you have the adaptive ride height. So that was one of the brand new features that Harley-Davidson introduced to the ADV or adventure touring space when the Pan America Special came out, is they came out with the adaptive ride height. Basically how that works is when you come to a stop, the bike lowers 2 inches on the Pan America Special. It's a little less on the ST. I think it's like an inch or maybe a little bit more than an inch. You get the adaptive ride height as standard equipment on this bike where you don't have to pay extra. On the Pan America Special, it was an upcharge of $1,200. So you get the adaptive ride height as standard equipment on the ST. You also have some of the other things like the cruise control, of course, and heated grips on the ST as well. You can only get the ST with the cast aluminum wheels. The Pan America Special, you could get the lace wheel option. There's a bunch of other equipment on this bike that has been shed in lieu of having a lower weight. Mickey's gonna jump into all that detail in just a minute, but you have about 25-pound less weight on the ST, and so you're not gonna be wanting to take it off-road. But if you're a guy that loves ripping the canyons, you want a sport bike-like feel, and you like the ergos that are a little bit bigger, more upright, more comfortable, and you're a bigger guy, you know, I'm seeing a lot of other bikes get a lot of attention, like you know, the Super Cruiser that Buell's doing right now. They're trying to reboot the company with that bike or something like that. And really it's because of the performance of it with still like a cruiser style to it. If you're looking for something like that, this is the bike, guys. You have the ergos of a Harley-Davidson. You have amazing performance on this machine, 150 horsepower. You have a quick shifter on this as well, which is a big point that this bike has that the Special did not have from the factory, which is incredibly fun, by the way. I'm sure Mickey will mention it, but it's almost counterintuitive getting on the bike and just shifting without the clutch for the first couple times. But once you just stay in the throttle, you don't even worry about the clutch and you just upshift through the gears. Just the acceleration just feels phenomenal.
That quick shifter is crazy. Yeah, I've never used the quick shifter before. Like my natural reaction is to let off the throttle, but you don't have to.
Yeah, they're fun, man. This bike will get up to 100 miles an hour in a hurry for sure, so it's just a lot of fun. The other thing this bike has, you know, being built on the Pan America platform, is the really, really nice suspension. You don't have the semi-active electronic suspension that the Special has in its entirety. It does require some adjustment. I think that that's probably because the guys that ride this are going to want to dial in their suspension with as tight accuracy as possible. So you have an adjuster for rebounds and compression on the front and rear suspension on this bike. And there's a ton of travel in this bike as well. So you're hitting the urban jungle with all the bad roads we have in LA or wherever you might live. And this bike just soaks it up, which is another reason why this is just such a great bike in terms of how it compares to like an upright sport bike. I don't think anyone's really comparing this to like an upright sport bike yet, like an MT or something like that. But it does weigh a little bit more. but the suspension more than makes up for it. And you still got the 5.6 gallon gas tank on this bike, so you have really good range. Comes with a sporty smoked little windshield here. A lot of the functional aspects that we saw on the Special have been forfeited, again, for weight savings and sporty nature.
Go back to the things that I think are missing. I have a couple little gripes about the finish quality. There are some mounting points that are still there because it's using some of the same subframes that were on the Pan America Special, or still are on the Pan America Special. And maybe that can be a good thing, because if you did want to pick and choose and say, you know what, I do want the brush guard, then you can add those things on and you don't have to buy an entire new subframe for that. So I think that could be a pro or a con depending on who you are. The one thing I did notice first and foremost getting on the freeway is the wind does really hit you. I like the adjustability of the Pan America Special windshield, and it looks like it has a different fascia there as well for the mounting point for that. So it's not adjustable on the ST, but it does look like a super hooligan bike, and I really like the stance of it. I like the wheels, like Matt mentioned, the wheels. The braking is phenomenal on this bike. I'm used to the touring bikes. I'm used to an 800+ pound bike, and you get on a light bike like this and you slam on the brakes. It has linked braking, working with the traction control safety features, and man, this bike really stops and it doesn't dip on the front like my bagger does. I do prefer this seat, this stock seat. I wouldn't be mad at this stock seat like I am at the Pan America Special seat. Immediately I would either switch to the Sundowner that Matt has, or I would move over to some other aftermarket seat, but I actually like this seat that's on here. It's comfortable enough. It does have some give to it, but it doesn't feel like a cheap foam or anything like that. One of the things that I prefer is not on the ST that is on the Special is the lunchbox for the exhaust. So I really do like the redesign of that. I think it's got a really aesthetically pleasing look. I would still probably change out the muffler, but the headers being there and that collector not being there, it kind of gives a little bit more view of that rear suspension. I think it's a really good look. It looks like they still use the same hand control mounting system where you would mount the hand guards, and the bar ends I think they could have been changed as far as fit and finish goes. You do have some empty holes on the hand control mounting system that I think would look a lot cleaner if they made some bespoke parts for these mounting points. Some of these mounting points, again, I think that there is some value if you wanted to add these things. You do have a mounting point to add there. Like the holes are still there for the steering dampener. So if you like the steering dampener from the Pan America Special and the only thing missing from the Pan America ST is that steering dampener, that will just bolt right on from what it looks like. Same thing with the brush guards. It looks like all those mounting points are there. I do wish they would have found a way to cover those up because I don't really like the way they look. It looks like something's missing to me. I think my favorite thing about this bike is the quick shifter. I'm sure many of you guys have ridden bikes with quick shifters before. This is the first time. I've never ridden a bike with a quick shifter, and it blew my mind. I had to actually look at my right hand and tell it not to release the throttle when I was shifting. I took my left hand off the bar so I wouldn't go for the clutch, and then I just stared at my right hand to tell it not to move. And shifting from first to second, there's a little bit of a chirp there, but second all the way up to sixth on the freeway, man, the thing it is. Now I realize why these guys can ride so fast is because the electronics are doing that for you. It just takes so much of the guesswork out of it. It's really, really nice, and it's a feature that I would absolutely want to have if I were getting a Pan America. I can't think of many things that I would want to change about this bike other than maybe I'd want to put a taller windshield, some taller risers, and a slip-on muffler. Kind of compare that to how I look at the M8 bikes. There's a lot more that I want to do to those bikes than there is this. It feels like a very complete bike coming from the factory. My two favorite bikes coming out of the factory, you said, Mickey, you have to have a bike from the factory in its stock form. It would be the Pan America ST and the Lowrider ST. I think those two bikes are the most complete, where I want to change the least things about them. If this bike were to be in the sport class, I guess I don't really know whether I'd want it to have a chain drive or a belt drive. So if you look at the sport bikes on the RevMax platform, in the sport category for Harley-Davidson, they are belt drive bikes. You look at the ADV bikes, They have chain drives. I'm not really sure where I land on that. Chains do require a little bit more maintenance. Belts can last a whole lot longer. If you're not taking it off-road and you don't have that necessity for being able to do chain maintenance or fixing your chain while you're out on the trail, I kind of think maybe I would want a belt drive on this bike. As far as the finish goes, I really appreciate what they did, making it look a little bit different from the Pan America Special. If you watch the video that we did on the Street Glide Ultra, it kind of had that feeling where it looked like a Street Glide that had P&A things just added onto it. This feels like it's actually a different model. I like that they changed the trim and the colors on the engine finishes, and I really like how they put the bike together. So I'm a big fan of the Moto America and watching the King of the Baggers, and I really like watching the Super Hooligan racing as well, and that's what this bike kind of reminds me of. It kind of gives me that almost like I want to be on the racetrack feel, whereas the Pan America Special gives me that romantic, I want to be in the dirt and I want to be dusty and camping kind of feel. Good thing it has adaptive ride height for Matt.
That's right, it's like a touch, right? Now, a lot of times people say, well, that's not a traditional Harley-Davidson, Matt. It's a Pan America. It doesn't sound like a Harley, it doesn't look like a Harley. You know what I would say to that, guys, is you know what? You're right. If you're looking for that Harley-Davidson character and feel of an air-cooled V-twin motor, you're not going to get that in this bike. Yes, it's a V-twin. It's a 60-degree liquid-cooled V-twin motor, and it has that sound, but you're still talking about a lot higher revving motor that is water-cooled. And so you don't have, you know, some of like the fit and finish and all the chrome and jewelry that some of the other Harley-Davidsons have. But if you're a guy that's looking for pure performance, you want that American Harley-Davidson, then the Pan America ST makes a lot of sense. And if you're a guy that doesn't go off-road anyways, then the ST is a great choice for you. If you want more of a do-it-all bike that can go off-road, hit those fire roads. You know, recently we went to Anza Borrego and did a little bit of off-road, got into some sand, which these bikes don't handle the sand very well, but hard-packed dirt, trails and things like that, you're gonna wanna do the Special. This does not have off-road mode like the Special does, but you still have your road, your rain mode, and your sport mode on this bike. And you also have two customizable modes as well, so you can play with things like the throttle progressivity, engine braking, how fast you want your electronic aids to come in, which is another thing, guys. This bike has the full suite of Harley-Davidson's electronic rider aids, so your ABS, your traction control, your torque drag slip control. So in terms of keeping traction on the road, this does very, very well. The ride modes are gonna tailor and change those rider assists as well. But overall, this is just a good performing package, guys, with all of Harley-Davidson's modern electronics in here. If you're looking for a go fast, haul ass bike around the city, or if you're a canyon guy, this is the perfect bike for you. You've also got some good modularity on here as well. If you want to get like the sport touring bags or something like that, this bike can be easily outfitted. You change your windshield, it can be easily outfitted to do overnighters and go on long rides as well. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If you're looking for a new Harley-Davidson in Southern California, make sure you check us out here at Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson, where we have absolutely no dealer fees, no added dealer markup. We're an MSRP dealer here. Swing by, say hi. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Later.
A few of the things that are not on the ST that are on the Special. Some of the things that are not there, I'm appreciative that they're not there, and some of the things that I could have taken those. So the lunchbox. Yeah. One of the things that I prefer that's not on this bike that was on the Special is this guy's a let's get a shot of this guy, huh? Oh.